Hello, welcome to Glash Games. I'm making this video as a filler between the normal devlogs or dev diaries, but I also think that it's really important to look back on what the current state of your project is and what you did well, what you didn't do so well, and all things like that. To start, the main thing I think I did pretty well so far is that the game hasn't been overscoped, or in other words, the original idea of Gamma is still in the game. This is important as when you first make a game, the original idea is why you started. If you overscope it, you lose the idea of the game, and of course it can become a jack of all trades but a master of none. I'd say I've done a pretty good idea of keeping the main idea of the game, but expanding it to be a lot better than originally. But I think it's a really good thing to explain the difference of overscoping and explaining an idea. Expanding on an idea is keeping the fundamentals of the game, but having more features, whereas overscoping is turning the fundamentals into something completely different, such as a roguelike game turning into a narrative RPG with roguelike elements. It isn't the same game anymore, it's just inspired by it, if that makes sense. A good example of this would be Events in Gamma. Originally, it was just going to be a Space Invaders, but roguelike game, and whilst it is still the base of the game, Events had a whole new twist to it, where instead of every run is the exact same except you level up differently, it follows that same idea. However, there's a chance where asteroids could come down on the screen. One thing I should have done completely different is for the system I use for upgrades. The way I have it set currently is really messy, and I should have used something entirely different. That thing is called custom signals, which for those who don't know, in Godot, the game engine I'm using, a signal is basically a function, but you can choose when to emit it and have certain parameters that can happen throughout entire scenes, or the things that hold collisions, sprites, everything else that could also be called in order to have a game. Basically a combination between a scene and prefab in Unity. Using signals, you can have a completely different thing happen even if it's from the same signal. This could be done by putting it in a different root scene or having different parameters. I should have done this as it would have been much easier and cleaner to the point where it wouldn't have to have made a roughly 70 if, elif, else statement, which is probably the worst code I've ever written. Or I could have done an array, I think, but it'd still be wrapped in a signal. Another thing I think I've done well so far is expanding and honing in on systems that were underutilized. The main case of this will be in the next update, as it expands the leveling up system, honing in on the changes I already made to it last time. Events are also getting expanded on, as well as the dev console, basically making everything from, it's fun enough, to, wow, that seems pretty fleshed out. This is important, as going back to what I said before, I'm really trying to avoid the whole jack of all trades but a master at none sort of deal. It can make the game feel a lot better and more refined. I wish I had also introduced the inheritance hierarchy system that is now implemented into Gamma a lot earlier than I actually did. This would have trivialized things such as different enemies, projectiles, levels, everything like that. But I added it so late to the point where sometimes it wasn't even worth implementing. I also could have known a lot more than I already do about it today, as I still find some problems and other funny bugs with it that I could have roughed out and eventually saved time with. Some post-video notes. To start, this update is the biggest I've ever done for Gamma, so it'll be a pretty long time until the next dev diary, but it'll be worth it. Currently, I got a lot of visual changes done, some polish, bug fixes, everything like that. Next, I'm going to work on the main part of the update, pretty much as soon as this video goes up. I also plan on doing better in terms of YouTube, as I realize my videos are already going against the algorithm with my topic and brand. And I'm not doing anything to help. For example, bad thumbnails, no hook, no self-promo at the end. Sorry, but I'm going to try to do it. Selling out before 100 subscribers. Yikes. But yeah, overall, I'm super excited for you guys to see the next update. And sorry for selling out. So that brings us at the end of the video. This one was kind of a spur of the moment, as I realized my last video was pretty long ago, and a lot has changed, but I also think reflecting on what I have done and how far I've come is also really important, because it keeps me in check and it also makes me more inspired to work. With that being said, you made it all the way to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it a lot, consider liking it. It means a lot, pushes the videos to the algorithm, which lets me grow. If you enjoyed my other stuff, maybe consider subscribing. Again, it helps, and that one's more binding, even though you can still undo it. And then if you also have anything to tell me, say it down in the comments, or join the Discord, which is a link in my channel bio. But yeah, thank you for coming along on this journey. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.